Guys, what's up? Derek Medina here. I appreciate you tuning in today because we are going to talk about wholesaling real estate. Now, we're going to talk about what that means, what the process looks like, what type of documents do you need, how do you go from contract to a check, how do you find the buyer, how do you find the seller, how do you find the title company to close it for you. I'm going to break it down for you, up to down, left to right. I want you guys to take this knowledge and go do a deal yourself. That would make my entire day. So let's also go to a property that I currently have under contract right now that we are in escrow to close. We will do a walkthrough on that house. We will talk about exit strategies, and then we'll come back and talk about the potential profits. And I'm gonna break it down for you guys, so please stick to the end. And I hope you guys get value from this video, all right? Let's get into it. All right, so I picked up a contract yesterday, and looks like a pretty good deal. So I'm headed over there right now to go meet some potential buyers for the property. This was a lead that I received from a realtor friend of mine, and looks like it's gonna be a pretty good deal. So I gotta put it together, make some money on it, and close it, man. So I'll show you guys a video of the house as we walk it, and then pretty much how to do a wholesale deal. All right, so here we are at the property that I just locked up under contract. It's basically a 4-bed, 2-bath with a full basement. It's gonna be a full flip. So, I mean, it needs roof, HVAC, water heater, new kitchen, flooring, etc., etc., etc. I'll take a little walkthrough video now so you guys take a look at that, and then we'll go over some numbers. So numbers on this property, the seller originally wanted $275,000 for it. We think fixed up because of the size of lot. It'll probably be in the 450 range. So already we have a pretty decent margin to do something with it. I did get her an offer of 250, and she countered at 260, and we ended up agreeing at 255. So 255 buy price. I'm most likely going to sell this to a fix and flip investor for 280,000, and then I also agreed to pay the realtor who brought me the deal an $8,000 commission. So $25,000 gross spread, minus the 8. I should bring in 17 grand for this one deal, which is it's pretty good. All right, welcome back to the office. Here we are. Let's go over the numbers. Purchase price is $255,000. The sale price to the end investor is $280,000. Here is the sales contract with the seller. Here is the assignment contract with the buyer. And here is the potential gross profit. Now, as I did mention, this deal was brought to me from a realtor friend of mine. So she will be getting $8,000 of that. I will be getting the remainder. So that's a great deal. It's a good wholesale, and that was a good deal. So now let's talk about how we decide exit strategy, right? So when you have a contract on a property, as an investor, as somebody that found the deal, that structured it, you have multiple options. Starting from buying it yourself and closing it, keeping it as a rental, buying it yourself and fixing and flipping the property, or like what I'm going to do now for this house is to wholesale it. And basically what that means is you have a contract with a seller, you have a contract with a buyer, and you are the intermediary between the two that found the seller, found the buyer, put them together, and everybody walks away happy because the seller gets their cash, the buyer gets a property with equity, and I make my spread, which is profit. one of the important aspects is how do you even find a seller, right? So there's a bunch of different ways. You can market through advertising, you can get referrals through realtors like I did with this deal, you can go cold outreach, whether that be text messaging, cold calling, emails, direct mail. The whole point is to get in front of somebody that wants to sell, that their property might not be in the best condition to list with a realtor. And the reason being is typically when people buy houses, 90% of the people that buy houses are buying them to live in them. It's very rare that an investor will buy a house on the market if the house is all the way fixed up, because there's no point. So once you understand that, it's important for you to structure this transaction, understanding that a buyer who could be a fix and flipper or a landlord, they need value add properties to make a spread, and therefore there is a demand. And then you have a seller who has a dilapidated house, something that's in foreclosure, a divorce, a relocation, whatever the pain point is. They have a reason and the need to sell. So there's your supply. So basic economics, you have supply, you have demand. Now it's your job as the middle person to find the supply and sell to the demand. And that's exactly what we did here. So when you have a property like this, as the investor putting the deal together, it's very important for you to understand what the highest and best exit strategy is so you can maximize your profits, right? So initially in the video, when I was at the house, my idea was to sell it as a single family off-market deal. Basically a strict fix and flip, fix the house, fix the yard, sell it, and that would be an ARV of the 450 grand. However, when you're looking at the layout of the property and the zoning of the property, which is extremely important, this one specifically is R2, which here in Colorado is residential for 2 units, meaning you can build a duplex or have 2 units on the property. The really important aspect is understanding that the way the layout is of this house, that you have a really good opportunity to turn this single family into a duplex. And a duplex being an up-down duplex, because if you notice when I walk into the house initially, there is a staircase going straight down into the basement. Because it's a direct staircase and it has a direct outside access, the smart thing to do is to wall off right there by the kitchen, and then now you have a direct separate entrance into a basement unit where you can build in a kitchen and that back large living room. Then you have your dining room, and then you have 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, so that's 1 unit. And then upstairs you have your kitchen, you have a living room, the 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. So it's a great opportunity to turn it into a duplex, which instead of having a $450,000 end value, you're likely a lot closer to $650. And then the other additional fun part is that detached garage. So most people would look at that and say, okay, this is a good garage, we'll clean it up, fix it up, and some husband would spend most of his time there if they were to come to buy the house. The key now is understanding that because of the zoning, because of this house being in an opportunity zone, which here in Colorado Springs just means that you can have profits, not necessarily not taxed, but you can have your profits delayed in being taxed. We could talk more about that in another video. So the smart idea would be to then turn that separate 2-car garage into an ADU. And an ADU is an accessory dwelling unit, which basically just gives you a completely separate unit by itself on the back of the lot. And since there is a alleyway right there, it's a great opportunity to add an extra potential, 200 to 300 grand in value on the back end. And so as the investor putting the deal together, once you recognize things like this, you now have more power in your pitch to the buyer. So instead of just saying, hey, you could buy this property for 260, fix and flip it and sell it at 450, at myself would probably give me a couple grand on closing, which is I'm not mad at that. But if you now understand the potential upside and the value that you can bring, not only to the property but to the end investors and explaining the potentials of the house and going through it with them. Now instead of 450 end value, you're a lot closer to 950,000. Could I have sold the contract for 300 grand? Maybe, but then now you're getting into a place of testing the market, right? And my experience personally is if you have somebody willing to drop earnest money, willing to sign the contract, willing to complete this agreement within 2 weeks, my experience is take the money, close the deal, and move on. There's a lot of people out there that would disagree. They would say, maximize profits, and I don't disagree with that, but I think it's more important to understand that one bird in the hand is better than two birds in the bush. So give me my bird in my hand, give me my check, give me my closing, give it 2 weeks, everybody's happy, done deal, we'll move on. So now let's talk about how do you find a buyer for something like this. Because I've been in business for up to coming up on 6 years now, I have a network. I've worked with a bunch of different people over those years, so it's a lot easier for me to find the right type of buyer for a deal like this. I would say if you're just now starting out, you can use a program. I use a program called PropStream.com. It's a great program where it allows you to pull city records, and you can just you can find out if where all the previous cash transactions happened within a mile of the subject property in the last year. Typically, I'd like to go for LLCs, and then you just find the LLC of that property. Granted, it is not owner occupied, and then you would take that LLC, you'd go to the Secretary of State website, you type in that information, and then they'll give you the owner and the mailing address of that LLC. Sometimes you get unlucky and there's an attorney on record, and so you won't be able to do anything with that. But I'd say about 80% of the time, you'll have the owner of the LLC and then their mailing address. So I'll just take that mailing address, I'll go to truepeoplesearch.com, and then I will type that in, and typically you will find that first name that you're looking for with a few phone numbers, and then you either dial to call them or you text them, basically along the lines of something like this. And the whole point is just keep it short and simple, because that's what investors like. Short, simple, get to the point. Here's the property, here's the value, I think, here's the amount of money that we think the property needs, and here are the potentials of exit strategies, whether it be fix and flip as a single family, turning this one into a duplex, or additionally adding an ADU on the back, because there are comps that match that. So it's a very, very, very time-consuming thing, but if you just spend the time, if you're consistent with it, then there's no reason why that you can do your own wholesale deal within 30 days. I'd say this, drive around neighborhoods, look for dilapidated properties, houses with tall weeds. If you see a mailbox with a lot of mail inside, if you look at the windows and you notice that the blinds are yellowing from the sun, typically people will open and close their blinds. That just shows that there's heavy weathering, and it's very likely that that house has been vacant for a while. I would do that, drive around these neighborhoods, get all these addresses, write them down, take those addresses over to PropStream so you can get an idea, or your public records if you don't have any money right now. That's how I started, is I would take those addresses, I would then go to my county assessor's website, I would type in the address to that website. They then give you the ownership info. If you have a name, regular name, or an LLC on record, if it's a name, take that name, again, go to True People Search,